Miami clinched a playoff berth on Friday night with a blowout win over the Bulls that showed this team isn't ready for their season to end just yet. We'll break down big performances from Jaime Jaquez, Tyler Herro, and more, and then look ahead to Sunday's Game 1 versus the Boston Celtics. All that and more on today's live episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to a live Saturday morning edition of Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. I'm Wes Goldberg, editor at allyoucanheat.com. Joining me as always, credentialed Heat media member David Ramil. However you're tuning in, live with us on YouTube or later on Odyssey or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Recording this Saturday morning after the Heat beat the Bulls in the final play-in game to make the playoffs. We are in the playoffs, David.
Yes. Never any doubt.
Never any doubt. Had it all along. No Jimmy Butler in that play-in game, who's out with the MCL sprain for several weeks. But this game on Friday night, David, despite the injuries, no Jimmy Butler, no Terry Rozier. We'll get to that. The latest on Terry Rozier's injury also later on. But this game was never close for the most part. David, you were there at the arena. I was at a wedding while this was happening. Yep. What was the atmosphere like at Kaseya Center?
It was great, and I mean, it was a little close, a lot closer than it could have been or should have been.
The Bulls got back into it late. Did it feel like did the wind kind of go out of the? Everybody was holding their breath for a little while. Yeah, absolutely. There was this understanding that, like, oh, we just saw this. I mean, remember, they had that double-digit lead against Philadelphia, too, and obviously a very different team, but DeMar DeRozan was electric in the third quarter. Like, it was a very different sense of, like, momentum. It totally shifted in Miami's favor. Chicago's favor. And so the thought was, here we go. They're in for another clutch game. And then at that point, they made a crucial misstep, the Bulls did, because they went ultra small. And at that point in time is when Kevin Love was in the game, giving Bam Adebayo a breather, and Eric Spoelstra. And I asked him about this. Eric Spoelstra just said, you know what? Let's post him up. Let's use him differently. And he was so effective. He got a shot over Alex Caruso, I want to say. Was able to take 10 free throws during the game. So he totally different way of impacting the game. We're so used to seeing Kevin shoot threes, and that's mostly where he has his impact. But when the Bulls went small, they punished them, which is not something you're used to hearing from Miami, right? Because they don't usually have that back to the basket big. But with a guy as skilled as Love, they were able to really take advantage of either Caruso or DeRozan, whoever was the small guarding him at that point in time. And then, as Smolster said later on, when they shifted and went big and they brought Andre Drummond in there, well, then that's when Kevin Love just shot threes instead, because that's what he does. So it was this really important stretch where Miami went from a 7-point lead that looked like it was slipping precariously to 20-something points, and that's how they basically coasted to an easy victory. Not sure I anticipated us starting today's episode with Kevin Love, but what the hell? He has been, and so I'm at this wedding. It was a beautiful wedding in Miami Beach, and I had a great time. But I'm also, like, on my phone in the back of this thing, watching this game. Found one other person to kind of sit there and watch it with me a little bit, or kind of kept checking. They're like, okay, like, we're doing this.
Absolutely.
I'm like, it's my job, man. I got to watch this a little bit. So that I was that guy at the wedding, and I apologize for it. But you got to do what you got to do. And I'm watching this, and the Tyler Herro stuff was awesome. I do want to get to that, but I'm thinking while I'm watching Kevin Love, I'm like, this. Who was it that said that the Heat might have the best backup center in the league?
Coach David Thorpe.
Right? He said that the Heat might have the best.
He said that about Thomas Bryant.
Correct, about Thomas Bryant going into the season. So, but I'm like, I think he was right. He was just wrong about what center it was. Right? It was like Kevin Love might be I don't know if he's the best backup center in the league, but man, he's far up there, and he's been so helpful to the Heat this year. And when he's got that ability to kind of throw back, you and I are old enough to remember when Kevin Love was playing for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and that was his game. It was the back to the basket, post up, everything that you think about Domantas Sabonis kids. Kevin Love was that, but considered a top 5 player in the NBA. That's what he was doing. Like the double doubles and everything. There was a little bit of the 3-point shooting there in Minnesota too, not as much as there was ended up being in Cleveland when he started tilting his game further in that direction. But now you've got like this sort of veteran savvy Kevin Love, who's got like these old vintages in the wine bag, and every once in a while he'll just uncork one, and he'll have a game like this. And yeah, it wasn't a double-double. It was 16 points and 7 rebounds, but 16 important points, to your point, David, and 7 important rebounds and 10 free throws. And he's able to just like, okay, like I could go throw back Minnesota Timberwolves Kevin Love for a little bit if that's just what's going to help us. I don't have to do it for a whole game, but I could do it for 3 minutes in the pocket of an important game and just give us the boost that we need. And so these non-Bam Adebayo minutes this year have been mostly a positive when Kevin Love has been available, just because of all those things that he brings. And then he has the two-man game with Jimmy Butler when Jimmy Butler was available, and all that stuff was really important too. Tyler Herro, like when he had it going, when he had that behind-the-back pass and found Caleb Martin in the corner, I mean, where are the Tyler Herro haters now? Like, I don't want to hear it. Like, he's not the perfect player. You know, you got inefficient nights and you get efficient nights from Tyler Herro, but he stepped up after a really disappointing game against the Philadelphia 76ers. Yeah. He goes 8 for 17 in this one, 4 for 9 from three-point range, 10 rebounds, 9 assists. I mean, we had Tyler Herro flirting with a triple-double. Hell, I'm giving it to him. I'm just gonna go ahead and give him the triple-double there. These playing stats don't count anyway. Nobody keeps track of them, so it doesn't really matter. So who cares what the difference of his triple-double or not? I'm giving him a triple-double. What was it like for Tyler?
He had struggled earlier, and I was at halftime. You know, I meandered out into the course where the concourse there, and I was like listening to fans, and there were a couple of people were just like, "Oh, here we go again with Tyler Herro." Like they were like, he was 3 of 9 at the half, and so they were like, you know, and then they were looking at, oh, he had 6 assists and 8 rebounds too, or something like that, whatever he had in the first half, and there was tangible disappointment, and that he was gonna again have another subpar performance similar to what happened against the Sixers. And so there was real disappointment in Tyler. And then we see his third quarter kind of turn things around. He gets caught in the flow. He's making smart plays. That behind the back pass just electrified the crowd. Like, I don't think the crowd was expecting it. And when that happened, there was like audible gasps and oohs and ahs across the crowd.
Tyler's a flashy player. He's not a good enough passer, or hasn't been, to make the behind the back pass. Like, that's a Tyrese Halliburton thing. That's like a Rajon Rondo thing. Like some of the better passers that we've seen, that like Tyler Herro is not that guy. That's not his game. And I think that's why everybody was shocked. I was shocked. I had to rewatch the highlight this morning. I'm like, did that actually happen? Or was I just hitting the open bar a little too much? I couldn't tell. But it was, that was very surprising. And yeah, his ability to electrify the crowd is so special, and it's so important to this team, especially when Jimmy Butler is not there. And the role players stepped up, and I thought this was an awesome game, and I kind of love this lineup. Tyler Herro, Caleb Martin, Jaime Jaquez was awesome in this game, 21 points for him on 50% shooting. Nikola Jovic had his moments, Bam Adebayo. Like, that's an interesting lineup. Yeah. You know, with enough defense, especially as Nico has gotten better on that end.
That I'm glad you called it out, because I was going to start gushing. Like, he had a block on Kobe White, which really rattled him, and it was interesting because I heard Billy Donovan pregame talking about the recent run from Kobe White and his season in general, and the word he used was that he's playing with such incredible confidence. Well, he didn't have it last night, and I think a big part of that was one sicking Caleb on him. Like, he was just really attached to him, challenging him, making things so much more difficult for him, the same way we saw against Tyrese Maxey in the Sixers matchup. And then every time he tried to drive to the paint because the shot from the outside wasn't falling, he was blocked by Haywood Highsmith. He was blocked by Nikola Jokic. It was Jovic, excuse me. They just responded. Yeah. They just responded so well to that. And just, they really made a concerted effort to kind of take away his game. And Nico, his defense was incredible. At one point, I tweeted during the game, like, I didn't think that we'd be here at this point, but he creates such cross matches because of his size, and he makes things so much easier. And the defensive end, and he's turned himself into a very valuable.
Did Kevin Love in the postgame locker room say that Nikola Jovic can guard all 5 positions? Did I hear that right?
I didn't hear that. I did not hear that. So
were you there when Kevin Love was talking? Or?
No, okay. He was available, and Jaime and Bam were coming back out, so I wasn't in
you
the
were talking to other players. Okay.
Yeah. So I didn't hear that, but that's
our friend Tobin posted the video as he does on his social account, and I was just like, am I hearing this right? Like, there's
it's half joking, but we're starting to see more of it, and I think that's the trend. And if he continues to improve, I mean, he's not going to be like a lockdown defender across all 5 positions, but he started off guarding Nikola Vucevic and challenging it pretty well. And like I said, he was able to block Kobe White too. So like at times he was on DeMar DeRozan. I think DeMar really liked that matchup, attacking Nico in particular. But he was picking up everybody and doing a fairly good job, moving his feet well, using his length. And at one point, again, during that run when Chicago was calling back to, cut the lead to 7, I said, you know what? They kind of need Nico out there because he makes things so much easier on offense, but also defensively. He facilitated and made that much more. I don't know. It just worked so much more effectively. Mm-hmm. And against Boston, I know we'll talk about it a little bit later on, but I think the idea that you can put him on Kristaps Porzingis, who's, Porzingis is clearly a better player and certainly dangerous from the outside. I'm not as concerned. Like, I know Boston fans are like, oh, this is it. Now we've got Kristaps. He's going to be Kristaps, whatever they're going to call him. I know that's the difference maker in the series, but I kind of like the idea of having Jovic guard him, and I think Kevin Love could pick him up as well once he comes into the game for Bam Adebayo. It's
a great point. You're absolutely right. One last thing on this Bulls game before we move on to the Celtics game, the Celtics series here. This is, you look at what happened in the play-in tournament on Friday night. The Bulls coming off of that huge win against the Hawks on Wednesday night.
Yes.
Like vibes firmly in the Bulls' favor. Vibes for the Heat could not be worse. Just lost your star player for several weeks. Still no Terry Rozier. Like all this stuff. And it just flipped, right? It just flips. Like the Heat get out to a huge first quarter. Vibes are different. And next thing you know, Kobe White, 42 points against Atlanta, looked like an all-star, 5 for 16 for 31% shooting. And Kobe White's an awesome player. He's probably going to be I would bet he probably makes an all-star team at some point in his career. Like he's at least on that trajectory. And he didn't look anything like that. But that's the danger of the play-in tournament, right? And then you look on the West Coast game, the Kings vibes. So many vibes for the Kings. They just beat the big brother Golden State Warriors on Wednesday night. They're rolling the Pelicans. Yeah. Miami Heat West, right? Just lost your star player. No Zion Williams for them. Couldn't be worse. Send in the obituary for the Pelicans. The season's over, and then they beat the Kings, right? With a big game, with a good start from them. So the play-in tournament is so weird, and I'm looking at the Bulls. They got 22 points from DeMar DeRozan. Nobody else had more than 16. Vucevic had 16 empty calorie points in this game, and and that's basically what it is. For Miami, we saw this last year. Jimmy Butler comes out, scores 31 points against the Bulls on the final play-in game, but it's also Max Strus who scores 31 points in the final play-in game, and that's why Miami was able to advance to the playoffs and make the run that they did. Who gets the Max Strus award for today's or for Friday night's game? Because I think you would expect a big game from Tyler Herro in this spot. He did, so he's sort of like, I guess, the Jimmy Butler in this equation, where it's like, okay, one guy you kind of figured would probably step up. That's the guy.
Yeah.
Is it Jaime? Does Jaime Jaquez Jr. as a rookie get the inaugural Max Strus award?
He was sensational. We talked about this before, and I know he had struggled with consistency as a rookie would, but to be in these situations, these are 2 play-in games to save your season, and he has not withered. He has not crumbled. He has accepted the challenge. He's playing so well. He was so confident and taking his 3-point shots too and attacking the paint. And he is more dynamic. And I know one of our viewers has already pointed that out. But yes, in a way, and this is not taking anything away from what Jimmy Butler does, but the lineup with Jaime just looks better because they do push the pace, because they do like to bring the ball up faster. And it's just attacking. And it works. And it looks good. It's not to slow it down. It's not Jimmy walking the ball up or dumping it to him so he could, figure out an attack in a half-court set. It's more about transition basketball. It's so much more fluid. And I think Tyler likes it sometimes to a detriment because he can, as a trailer, he can have that pull-up 3. Bam likes it because if he's trailing again, then he's got an easier cut to the lane and he can finish with a dunk. We saw that on a couple occasions too. I think the players just like his style. And I think Jaime just brings a different equation to that starting lineup. It really, really looks good. It works. And I think it could work against Boston too. I'm not sure to what degree and how effective it'll be, but we've seen enough of a sample size with Jaime as a starter where we know that kind of fast-paced lineup works pretty effectively.
He has not, to your point, balked at the fact that these games matter.
No.
He was going at Joel Embiid on Wednesday in a way that we were sort of hoping Bam Adebayo would, right? He was like, all right, you're injured. I smell blood in the water. I'm going to take it to your chest. Jaime Jaquez Jr. literally drove into Joel Embiid's chest. And I'm like, what is going on? And obviously little plays like that get lost in the noise of the loss. But now that he has this performance, you can almost look back at that and you're like, wow, this guy really stepped up this week. Even if he didn't want to be in this spot, he really stepped up this week. And it's such a good point by you, David, about the pace that they play with, because Jimmy Butler, he likes to hold the ball, very methodical.
Sure.
And it's gotten Miami's offense into trouble where he just stands at the top of the key or whatever he's positioned and just holds it for 6 or 7 seconds, doing his little subtle jab step thing, kind of trying to get some guy to turn a micro fraction of one direction so that he could try to blow by him. This team just goes. And I love when Tyler Herro is pulling up in transition confidently. I love when Jaime Jaquez Jr. is rampaging towards the basket. I love when Caleb Martin is flying to the corner. I love when Nikola Jovic is ripping off rebounds and flying down the floor. And Bam Adebayo, this is so perfect for him. And it wasn't a great Bam game, but it didn't have to be. And he was everywhere defensively. I mean that offensively, it wasn't like a big time Bam game, but he made 5 of his 8 shots for 13 points, and that's basically all Miami needed with everybody else going. And had 4 assists in this game too, which were important. But yeah, when that's the way to create an advantage for Bam, because in the half court, Bam doesn't really have an advantage. He's just too small, and he doesn't have great touch on that, like those 8 to 10 foot floater shots. But
they were packing
in transition, he can really do stuff, and I feel like we don't see enough of it.
Yeah, we've seen the kind of book is out a little bit, at least for now, and Bam. They pack the paint, make things difficult. They send multiple bodies on there. He's not able to get those good looks. And with Vucevic and his size, which is much greater than Bam's, I guess he just wasn't comfortable taking that shot. The kind of face-up jumper that he's got in his arsenal. He did take a 3, and that looked pretty good, and that was able to kind of grease the wheels a little bit. But it was a good performance from Bam in terms of his impact across the board, and the little things that he does so well. Maybe not the kind of aggression, but in terms of like the production and from taking a number of shots and stuff like that, I still thought like at one point through the third quarter, he'd only taken like 5 field goal attempts. That's not nearly enough, but everybody else had it going and they were building that lead. And again, once the tenor of the game changed with Kevin Love having that impact in the third quarter, you could tell that they were going to put this game away. I didn't think it was, going to get close at any point after that, but they did make it hairy. I kind of want to also speak to the general idea about the Heat fans and everything else like that, because I know national media, it's one of the stories coming out of yesterday's game, early tip, 7:00. It was dead in there. And typically as you and I get there earlier, when we're covering these games, you see like fans in the stands and you see a lot of people kind of just like getting ready, watching warm-ups and stuff like that. There was hardly anybody there. I think there might've been like 2 fans in the entire arena during early warm-ups, and then slowly but surely it starts trickling in. And I think if for anybody outside of South Florida that doesn't realize the challenges of getting to Kaseya Center, it is a mission. It is very difficult to find parking. It is very difficult to get there on time. And with a half an hour, the 7:00 tip, that makes a huge difference. There weren't a lot of fans there, but I'll tell you, by that second half, it was electric. There was a lot of energy. There was a lot of good vibes, and it was just a really good, positive win in general. You saw the "We want Boston" chants. What was your thought process? Because I was like, I was a little cringy to me, because it's like, are you sure? Be careful what you wish for. But you know what? I can't blame him. Yeah, I can't blame him.
I love it. Why wouldn't you? That's the whole point. Like that's essentially it's bring on Boston. We want the playoffs. And
players were saying that as they were going back from after the game ended, going to the locker room. They're like, yeah, Boston. There was like a lot of it cheering, and it was like,
and that's the thing. It's like, I know that there was a portion of Heat fans that wanted them to lose last night. And I'm not gonna, I get it. Right. There's a lot of Bulls fans that are ecstatic right now because they wanted to kill this season with fire. You know what I mean? So,
yes.
And I understand it, because this season has not gone the way that a lot of people anticipated. And then Jimmy Butler getting hurt, it's like, okay, it just sort of felt like the death knell on the season. And it might still be the death knell in the season just because they won this play-in game and got the Celtics are a really good team. But we'll get to that here in a second. But players don't tank. They want to play in the playoffs. They want to go. And
yeah.
I love what Eric Spoelstra, the Heat, posted a video on social media talking to the players in the locker room, and it was very spoistic, where he's talking about, I love things that you can't buy. We have all the money in the world in this room, but you can't influence it. You can't buy it. You just got to earn it. And he's talking about, obviously, a playoff berth. So, but that's the way that this team is, and that's how NBA players are. You know, they want to have a chance to play in the playoffs. And man, I gotta tell you, I was kind of flirting with the idea that I kind of want the Heat to lose, because I'm like, all right, let's get to this offseason, let's do it, let's rebuild, let's do this thing. And man, I'm pumped for the playoffs. I am so pumped. I am so ready. I have zero expectation that the Heat are going to beat the Celtics. Just for the record, I also said that they were going to lose every series last year, and
yes, you did.
they won until they didn't. They got all the way to the finals. So don't listen to me. I'm an idiot. But I have zero expectation for the Heat to win this series. I don't care. It's the playoffs, baby. Let's go. Like, this is what it is. I'm so excited for playoff basketball, and I love this position where the Heat are in. So really quick, let's do this now. Terry Rozier, reported by Barry Jackson, according to his sources, he's going to now be considered week to week with what's considered a neck spasm. So probably not going to have Terry Rozier at all. Week to week sounds to me like this might be, even if the Heat did make the finals, like there's still no, like week to week means we have no idea.
Ending.
There's no time to, So I'm going to go ahead and pencil Terry Rozier as a non-factor, unfortunately, and it really sucks for Terry because he was really just starting to get going before all this happened. Really started to find his flow and fit in the offense. So it sucks. But you look at this lineup with, and this is sort of the lineup I thought. It's similar to the lineup I thought Miami would get to when we were talking in the preseason about this team, with Tyler Herro as the point guard, where we weren't sure if Kyle Lowry was going to be the starter. I was like, why not start Tyler Herro and Caleb Martin, who's more of a two guard than a power forward, where he's playing most of last year, with Bam, obviously Jimmy Butler, and then I thought maybe Kevin Love or Nikola Jovic or one of these guys, like a floor spacing four, and we kind of got there at this point. Now, not the way that we wanted to get there, because it's mostly because of injuries, but Nikola Jovic has totally developed into a legit starter. Jaime Jaquez Jr. is, the steal of the draft, and we've covered that enough. But I kind of like this lineup. You mentioned the pace. Let's talk about this Celtics matchup. You're absolutely right about Nikola Jovic guarding Kristaps Porzingis. Porzingis is gonna get the 20-year-old a couple times. He's gonna vet him a couple times. Like, that's just gonna happen. Kristaps Porzingis is too smart and too good. It's gonna happen. But overall, I like this position for Miami because you could put Jovic on Kristaps Porzingis. Porzingis mostly is gonna want to they're gonna play 5 out Boston. We know that. So you have Jovic on the perimeter, just putting his big body in front of Kristaps Porzingis' big body. Like I said, Porzingis is going to bait him with a pump fake and drive to the basket. That's going to happen a few times. But I like that because it frees up Bam Adebayo to not have to do it. And now we get Bam guarding, like we saw him guarding DeMar DeRozan at times last night. He's going to be guarding Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. Like, now you've got Bam to do that stuff. Yeah. Like, the Celtics don't want to see that. Like, I'm not like, that's not what the Celtics want in the first round. They do not want to deal with this version. And I love where the Heat are at. Nothing to lose, David.
No, it's a great point.
To lose. And like, this is the worst thing that the Celtics could see in the first round, is a Heat team motivated, jacked up, nothing to lose. I'm pumped. I'm pumped. I'm ready to. I'm so much more relieved almost watching this playoffs, because I feel like I have nothing to lose.
It is interesting. Like, it's going to be such an X factor, because like we see the games, they're kind of not necessarily similar, but would you say Porzingis is more fluid than this version of Nikola Vucevic at this point in his career? Yeah, I guess that's probably accurate. But I think Nico can adjust well enough to make things more difficult. And you know how they're going to play. They're going to have everybody drop. And it's just a matter for Porzingis to be able to make that smart pass at the last second. And I trust Miami's defense to, close out on guys and make things a little bit more difficult. And it's not nearly as easy. Again, now all of a sudden this team is very, very different because of what Nikola Jovic provides to that starting lineup. And we saw it in spurts yesterday. And I think we'll continue to see it against the Boston Celtics. I mean, I'm not predicting that it's going to tilt things in Miami's favor. I mean, they're still just too good, really. The Boston Celtics roster is a very good one. But you like to have the advantage that I think Nico gives you, or at least the difference in being able to cover teams cover teams differently than what you had before, and getting to this point now. So I don't know. It's going to be a really, really interesting to see how all these different cross matches. And I like the Jaime, as a starter. So let's map it out here. So we start off with what? Caleb Martin is going to pick up who?
I would imagine Tatum.
Or Tatum?
You probably put Caleb on Tatum, Bam's on Jaylen Brown, Nico on Porzingis, and then you're basically you're hiding Tyler Herro probably on Drew Holiday, and you're gonna ask Jaime Jaquez, or maybe you put Jaime on Drew because maybe Drew's a little bit more, and then you just ask Tyler to guard Derek White. It's either way. The Celtics are gonna pull. They're gonna test Nikola Jovic. They're gonna do that. And that's basically their offense anyways. They're going to run screens with Kristaps Porzingis, and the Heat will be forced to switch those probably more times than not. And then they're going to test Tyler Herro. They're going to pull Tyler Herro into the action quite a bit. But we know we're going to see zone a lot in this game too. Haywood Highsmith has done a very good job against Jason Tatum. He's obviously going to be coming off the bench, but that'll be another kind of button that Spo can push in this matchup. So, Spo's going to, he's undoing the pipes, ready to throw the kitchen sink at this series. It's going to be a lot of weird Spo stuff. We might see a new version of the zone just because, it might. We're going to see plenty of press. This team is now young, without Jimmy Butler. This is a young team.
It's a lot of rate.
Look at this. Yeah. We've got 20-year-old Nikola Jovic, 22-year-old Jaime Jaquez. Bam is experienced but young, 25, 26, whatever. Tyler Herro, 24. This is a young roster. This is the Orlando Magic being in the, I'm telling you, the average age of this group, take Kevin Love out of it. It's a young roster.
Even Caleb's younger, really.
Caleb's 27. This is a young team. This is what the Orlando Magic are.
So your average starting lineup is with 20, with Nico at 20, the average age of the starting lineup is 22, 23 almost?
You know what? You can't make me do math on a live episode.
Yeah, but that's basically Caleb's your oldest player at 27 in your starting lineup. That's
Caleb
really
Martin, man, the vet.
Yeah, I'd never even considered that, but it is the idea of Miami is you have Jimmy Butler. It's an older team. It's all about the structure and the culture and the consistency and everything else like that. But this is a very different, quicker, faster lineup. It's going to be really interesting. I don't think it's going to be as. I know Celtics fans are going to want to chirp, whatever. They perhaps
they've earned it.
I don't know if they earn it.
They won 66 games this year. You're the number one seed. You earn it. You earn it. When you're the number one seed, you get to earn to chirp. But go ahead and chirp because you know what happens. Miami, if the Heat go into Boston, into the Garden, and take one of these first games, I am so tuned into Boston radio for the next 24 hours because it will be. I was on a live stream show yesterday with our friend Bobby Manning, who does good work covering the Celtics up there. I asked him, I was like, what word would you use to describe the city of Boston if the Heat were to go in and steal one of those first two games? And he was just calamity. It would just be absolute panic. It would, and look, the Celtics, this is the thing that the Celtics do, right? Is they have a tendency not to step up in the playoffs, right, to expectations. Even last year, the first round against the Atlanta Hawks, that thing looked like it was going to a sweep, and then the Hawks ended up winning a couple games and forcing it to 6, and that series almost went 7. So the Celtics can kind of overlook things, and that's sort of the idea this year is that Joe Mazzulla has been trying to get that out of the Celtics DNA, and maybe it is, maybe winning a bunch of 60-plus games in the regular season gets that out of you. But we don't know it until we see it, right? And one punch from this Miami Heat team on a Celtics team to get the Celtics to wobble a little bit, I would just be really interested to see what would happen.
No,
man, I'm almost at the point where I'm kind of predicting that they take one of these first two games. I'm almost there.
I might be reaching a little far. No, look, how about this?
I would never.
You might lose 2 in Boston, but if you can win 2 at Kaseya. Again, this is very unlikely stuff.
I kind of like that. I like their chances to win in Boston more than in Miami.
That is a good point. That is a good point. Although I think that's mostly Jimmy Butler, his approach to life in general. But I don't know. It's there's a lot to see here. It's how Miami responds, how Boston responds. There are legitimate questions for all the chirping that's you say that Celtics fans have earned. The reality is that during these playoffs, they have something to prove just as much as they have more to prove than Miami does.
100%.
Like Miami's been there.
The Heat have nothing to prove. The Heat have nothing to lose.
No
Jimmy Butler's not involved.
Yeah.
This is a young team. This is I'm telling you, this is the Orlando Magic. What do the Orlando Magic have to prove? Nothing. They're just happy to be there. The Heat are just we got a young roster. We're just trying to build for the future. We just want to get our young guys some playoff experience, baby. Like that's it. Nothing to lose. And you're absolutely there is no team under more pressure than the Boston Celtics. There's no team. There is no excuse for the Celtics not to make the finals. Jimmy Butler got hurt. Joel Embiid is hurt. Giannis has gotten hurt. It could not have broken better for and the Boston Celtics are not just the best team from the regular season. They're also the healthiest team going into the playoffs. There is zero reason for them to not make the finals. If they do anything less than that, it is a complete and utter catastrophe for the Boston Celtics. And they know it. They absolutely know that. And now they have to see a zombie Miami Heat. And this is not even a zombie Miami Heat. This is like it's one of those zombies with one arm chopped off and like a dagger already through its neck and just like trying like on its last leg trying to get through the window to eat your brains. Like that's what this is right now, and that's terrifying to the Celtics. They don't want to see this, and I know that, right? We know Celtics fans, like we talked, like they're like, really, again, this, and they're saying the same thing we do. They're like, Spo loves this, the Heat love this. The Heat are exactly where they want to be.
They were so much more hoping that Chicago would find a way to win yesterday than Miami. I think collectively,
100%.
Yeah, she just never know. And I think there's always, and a legitimate one too, a fear of injury. Like, I mean, you never hope that it breaks down to that, but I think we'd be having a very different conversation if Jimmy was healthy and these things happen. So, you never want to see that from a Celtics perspective, but you never know. A player slips, a player falls, somebody rolls into a leg, and all of a sudden, if somebody gets hurt, that introduces just enough of an element of fear and instability. And I like, again, Miami's chances of like, well, what do we have to lose? Like, what we can just go out there, play as freely as we want with as little expectation about what we're able to accomplish and maybe make something miraculous happen.
It's a big spot for Tyler Herro, who has not had that opportunity in the playoffs. Like last year, obviously getting hurt in the first game. No Jimmy Butler now, and no point guard. Like Terry Rozier out week to week. Duncan Robinson came back. We forgot to mention, and he went 2 for 4 from 3-point range, 3 for 6 overall against Chicago. He looked good. Had a couple nice passes too in that game. But it's Tyler's and Bam's offense to run, and they're going to get their stuff, to Jaime and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's Tyler and Bam's offense to run, and it's a great spot for Tyler Herro to be in, right? And he's wanted this opportunity, and he now has it, right? And you can go whatever it was, 9 for 26 in one of these games. That's fine, but he's also going to have games where he has 24 points on 8 for 17 shooting like he did against Chicago too. Like this is a great spot for him. It really is. It's going to be tough. Like the Celtics are damn good, and they're going to throw Derek White and Drew Holiday at him. It's not going to be an easy series, but he's going to have. But the point being is that he has the opportunity. Who knows what he does with it? It's a tough one, but he has a chance here with that to kind of show that he's the guy that he wants to be considered.
Yeah, I think even. Like for everybody saying like, oh, we're perhaps a little biased in our coverage or whatever. Like Mark Stein said that the series would go 6 today. Like this is a national guy. He's not like favoring Miami. He said the series would go 6.
He said that knowing that Jimmy Butler is not going to be in the series.
Yes.
Go Mark Stein. Let's get him on.
Yeah, very surprising. But I mean, a 6-game series that Miami's going to find a way to win 2 against this Boston team.
And they're both going to be in Boston.
You don't think Celtics fans would be a little panicky if they lost 2 games to this version of the Heat?
David, if the Heat win the first quarter of game 1 on Sunday, 32-28, the Celtics are going to be panicky. Celtics fans will be panicky. Like it's not even going to take a game. It might just be a half. Like, no, it's I am rooting so hard for that. Just win one game in Boston.
Oh, I know.
Split it on the road. I'm telling you, when I will be tuned
PTSD
into Boston radio for 24 hours. And we'll do a whole show on it. It'll be great if it happens. But either way, I love the energy. I love the spot. I love this nothing to lose thing. It was like this season has worn on me so much. It was just a disappointing regular season. I had no idea what to think about this team. I'm in, man. I'm all the way in. I'm relieved. I have nothing encumbering me. I have it's a young team in the playoffs with nothing to lose. And I love this spot against the Celtics. Why not?
Yeah.
Let's just go for it.
Duncan has to step up. Like, we've seen him have some really big games against the Celtics. He did last year in the Eastern Conference Finals. And he had a little spark to him yesterday, taking it to the rim. He had to knock down a couple of threes. Like, it wasn't his best game, obviously, but I think we're seeing shades of him returning to the player he was before injury. He'll continue coming off the bench. But that's a really dangerous weapon to have for Miami off the bench. They've got enough to make things interesting. I'll put it that. We're not predicting that they're going to beat Boston by any stretch of the imagination, but they've got enough to make things really, really dangerous for everyone.
Highsmith, Kevin Love, Duncan Robinson, DeLon Wright off the bench with the 5 starters that we've talked about. It's who knows? FanDuel the Celtics are minus 3,000 to win this series. That's basically saying that's Vegas predicting that the Celtics are going to sweep, essentially, is what that means, or gentlemanly sweep here. So odds heavily against the Miami Heat, and they should be. They absolutely should be. The Heat should not be favored by anybody in this series. I'm talking about Vegas. It makes zero sense. I would expect 0 national people to pick the Heat to win this series, and nobody should pick the Heat to win this series. There is no reason that any sane person would pick the Heat to win this series. And I love it. And I love it.
Again, to this comment here, Ben, we're dreaming. They're going to win in 4. This sweep, huh? Yeah, okay. It's like, I've been hearing this shit from Celtics fans and John goddamn Corrales for 4 years. No, I'm sorry. When it comes to Celtics fans, I am just like, you guys have been chirping about nothing for 4 years. The same crap that you're coming up with now. We're a better team. We're going to sweep. We're going to wipe the floor with these Miami guys. You've been saying that for 4 years, and it hasn't worked except for one missed Jimmy Butler shot to go blow it to the Golden State Warriors. Congratulations. Like, what have you accomplished that gives you the ability to have that kind of hubris? And it's just unbelievable. Will Miami win the series? Probably not. They might not win a game. But you have absolutely nothing to be arrogant or convinced of your superiority other than whatever games you won during the regular season. And guess what? That hasn't mattered much against Miami of late. So I wouldn't be too confident. I wouldn't be too cocky. Things can happen. A series can change. And Miami is poised because they have nothing to lose to go and play as freely as possible. And they've got talent. And they've got a good roster. And they're better coached than Joe Psychopath Mazzulla talking about wanting to have every exit mapped out. And his latest thing now is like,
what is this?
Like, he's talking like a psycho. Like he goes into a room and he wants to map out exactly where every door is so that he has an exit strategy. It's like, okay,
what
dude.
What question prompted that answer?
I don't know. I don't even know in what context this was revealed. But
like,
you
what,
sound
Joe
like
Mazzulla, what would you do if there was a shooter in the room right now? Like, what?
And every Celtics fan's like, oh, I die for this guy. It's like, really? Okay. He's probably going to use your body as a human shield. And he probably has that as plan 26B in his exit strategy from leaving whatever deli he chooses to go to. Like,
what's that movie he watches all the time?
Oh, the Town. The Town with Ben Affleck, right?
It's like, a good movie.
I'm sure it is.
Another
bank heist movie. Yeah, no, I have not.
Oh, it's a good movie. You should see it. But it's crazy that he just watches it to like get hyped up.
Yeah.
He's done a better coaching job this year than he did last year, no doubt. But yeah,
the bar was
Spo
low.
is the best coach in the NBA.
What a psycho.
He's a psycho.
He's not crazy, dude.
Like,
and then people being like, yeah, I love this guy. It's like, oh,
I was in the locker room last year. It was obviously his first year coaching, and I was in the visiting locker room before a Heat Celtics game. And he just comes into the locker room and does a full somersault just through the visiting locker room. And you've been in that visiting locker room. It's a closet. It's a broom closet, essentially. Yes, and so he just does like this full somersault. I'm like, what? What's going on here? Every coach has his own way of doing things, I guess. You have your own way of motivating your players. we'll see what happens here. The Celtics are under an immense amount of pressure to win this series. The Heat are under absolutely no pressure, and it feels like the exact scenario that the Celtics didn't want. And I would almost say like maybe even worse than if Jimmy Butler were available in a weird way, right? Mm-hmm. Just because I'm not really sure what I'm trying to say here. Like I don't like the Heat are going to be the underdogs no matter what, with or without Jimmy. They would have been the underdog in this series.
Understandable.
But this, yeah, and they were supposed to be the underdog. They're the 8th seed. The Celtics are the 1 seed. We're not breaking news here, but I don't know. I just something about this. If I were a Celtics fan, I would just be like, "This sucks. This absolutely sucks right now." Yeah. You know,
I don't think they want to face Miami other than to get rid of whatever ghosts they have that they've been denying for years. That they keep insisting that they're not worried about Miami and that, oh no, we're not worried. We want to go through you. It's
they should want to.
We're not worried this year. It's like you said that last year when you weren't worried, and all of a sudden now you are worried. You said that the year before when you weren't worried.
And that's the point. They should want to, right? They should want to play the Heat. They should want to vanquish that demon, right? But that's exactly sort of what we're talking about. They're the team with the pressure to do it. The Heat have zero expectations on them right now. Yeah. And that's just crazy. So I'm very much looking forward to this series, however it goes. The interesting schedule. Sunday afternoon is game 1 on ABC. So that'll be awesome, obviously, in Boston. Then they get a couple days off. Then they play Wednesday in Boston. And then another long break before they come back to Miami. A game Saturday and then a game Monday. So this series is stretched out. I'm sure people very little possibility, no possibility of Jimmy Butler or Terry Rozier returning for this series. Like however, like even if this were to go 7, like those guys aren't coming back. So this is the group for now. We'll see if somebody else gets hurt. Knock on wood. But I don't know, man. Anything else on this before we go?
No, fun environment. Looking forward to it. You're right though. That like the idea of them winning game 2 somehow. Like game 1, short turnaround. Boston's been resting. 1 o'clock tip off. It could get ugly. I'll own that. I could really get ugly. Miami had to fly out today. Rather, we're recording this on Saturday. It's got to fly out today so they can prepare for a 1 o'clock tip. Those kind of schedules change everything for everybody. Like 1 o'clock tips are never convenient for any basketball team, especially for a team that was just in a big dogfight on Friday. So it does certainly benefit the Celtics, I will say, for game 1. But if somehow Miami is able to win game 2, those 3 days of rest in between games 2 and 3, what a freaking panic. That would almost make everything about this really dull and endless season feel worth it, right?
I'm with you. One game. Just give me game 1 and game 2. It's worth it. I'm done. You can lose the next. You can lose the next 3 games. I don't even care. Just give me, because that's the thing is if you steal game 2, that's Thursday and Friday of Celtics panic. That's not even 24 hours. It's 48 hours. That's more than 48 hours of Celtics panic. Like inject that in my veins right now. That's awesome.
Yeah,
like let's do that. Like. It'll be a lot of fun. The unfortunate that Terry Rozier is not going to be able to be part of it. Obviously, he started his career with the Boston Celtics. Would have been really cool got the Scary Terry moniker during a great playoff series when he played for the Celtics. When Kyrie Irving went down, and unfortunate that he can't kind of make this sort of return to Boston storyline complete thing. But he will. It does not. He's week to week now. It does not sound, and that's essentially to me no timeline for his return. I would not expect him back. Maybe even if the Heat like somehow made the finals, I don't even know that he would come back. Like we just don't know. There's no timeline. Week to week means literally week to week, and we'll see what happens. So hopefully everything's going okay with him. But that'll do it for today. We are going to try. So we're recording this Saturday morning. The game is on Sunday afternoon. So we're probably not going to do a preview with John Corrales before then. I don't think we're going to be able to fit it in. But we'll probably do something in the middle of the week because these games are so spaced out. We'll probably try to get with John and boy, if they do steal one of these first 2 games, John might not come on with us actually. So maybe it won't happen, but we'll see what happens. Thanks for listening, everybody who tuned in live on Saturday morning. We really appreciate it. But for now, we'll be back Sunday afternoon with a recap of Game 1. We'll see what happens. Let's go playoffs, baby.
Yeah.